I was so close to reading the book. I was in a bookstore a week before we were taping the show.
Oh, ouch.
And I was this close to grabbing a copy.
Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the new movie, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Rebecca, let's get started.
Coriolanus Snow has lived through the dark days, which makes him perfect to be a mentor to Lucy Gray, an unwilling participant in the savage pageantry known as the Hunger Games. With the games designed to choose one winner, but at the cost of the lives of the other participants, not only is Lucy fighting against an ever-changing arena, she's fighting for the right to exist. Together, they must combine their experiences to create a narrative that appeases the game masters and allows Lucy to walk away alive.
Rebecca, talk to me about what you loved about this movie.
I love the world building that this movie provides. It's not just in the character choices. It's not just in the dialogue that's presented with me. It's simple things like the costuming.
The costuming was very good.
Even like the monsters added some flair. Suzanne Collins, who writes the Hunger Games franchise, is very gifted about getting into the minds of the characters, but also the environment. And I really see that translated. I was really excited to see just the production team on this film. If you've been following the franchise for a long time, Francis Lawrence has directed most of the Hunger Games movies. He started with Catching Fire up until recently. Mockingjay Part 2 was the last film that he done. But it's nice to see him back in the director's chair because I trust him with the seriousness of this material. He even brought back Trish Somerville, who designed some of the most iconic costumes in the franchise.
The costuming was beautiful. And the directing, it's funny. I know you know this storyline a whole lot more, and it's based on how many books do you recall?
This particular movie is based off one book.
Okay.
You have 4 books being adapted total. You have The Hunger Games, you have Catching Fire, and you have Mockingjay. And now you have A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
And this is the last book, so potentially this is the last movie in the franchise.
This is the last book as of right now.
Well, right, and that's the thought of the potential, because my thought is maybe they can take 1 or 2 characters and maybe branch off a little bit more that may have not been a book historically.
Honestly, I was surprised that this project even came to be, but I'm very glad it did.
I know you were excited about this movie. I laugh because I'm learning as I go. I haven't read the books. I guess that's great because there's no spoilers for me. I go in going, ooh, let's see what's going on. We know so many people, including yourself, that love this franchise. I laugh. We even have a family friend. She at one point named her cat Katniss. There is something going on that really resonates with a number of people around this movie.
I think this movie is the outlier in, quote, young adult franchises. It really takes the seriousness of the topics being discussed, but presents them down to a human level that doesn't feel like you're watering it down for the audience.
Let's talk about the watering down. This movie is PG-13. It feels like a pretty strong PG-13 to me.
Keep in mind, if you've seen the other Hunger Games movies, this movie is decidedly more violent. Please don't take your kids.
Oh, please don't take your kids. And we're not talking adults or young adults or even late teens that have some maturity. We're talking young children. We were at a Dolby screening, pretty full theater, a number of young children. And this movie is violent and graphic in my mind.
I want to compare this to the first film specifically. If you read the books, it feels like John Wick with a bow.
Wow.
If you watch the first movie, you see quick cuts, very little viscera being displayed on screen, almost just like a hint, like, boom, that kid's down, boom, that kid's down. This you see, that kid's down, they got stabbed, and there's stuff coming out.
Yeah, no, it was a bit much for me, and I'm an adult, but there were kids around us, and I was,
It made me feel really uncomfortable.
Yes, I would agree with that, because I believe this movie is definitely the PG-13. However, there were elements that were interesting, but the theme alone, these kids are fighting literally for their lives, and they have mentors to try to help them, and some mentors don't even make it out.
And that's just the first half of the movie.
Oh, wow. That's right. In the movie is 4 parts or 4 scenes as they...
4 vignettes.
4 vignettes. It felt like 2 movies to me.
Now, I know Francis has specifically stated that even though Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 were commercially successful, he felt like as a filmmaker that he made the wrong decision for the story. So he just crammed them in for this one.
Did it feel too congested for you or too tight for you? Was that just my experience, or what do you think?
I understand what you're saying. I feel like it could have been a better movie if they had split it up. But I understand if you have the audience butt in the seat and they're emotionally invested, you might as well use that time wisely.
I don't disagree with that entirely. However, for me, it just felt like clear delineation, ending, and then all of a sudden we're going on to something else.
And there's an epilogue.
Right. And it wasn't even that. It was like, oh, hey, whole different story going on here. I did like the casting a lot. Rachel Ziegler, who played Lucy Snow, was phenomenal. Her voice, she's just like a little thing, and she's singing.
Can't take my past, can't take my history. You could take my paw, but his name's a mystery.
There was actually a lot of singing in this movie.
Lucy Gray is quite a powerful character. I
would agree with that.
Now, full disclosure, I purposefully did not read the book intentionally. I'm a huge fan, but when the book was announced, it was pretty quickly announced in the same breath, oh, hey, there's a movie coming out. So I'm just like, the movie's going to come out fast before I know it. I'm going to skip it because Suzanne's writing is so great about putting yourself in the shoes of the character. I didn't want that to taint our review.
I laugh. You read like people drink water. You go through book after book after book. I'm amazed when you said, I didn't read the book. Not because I'm impatient, I can't, but you love stories. And if this is a story you love, I appreciate the fact you're like, nope, I didn't want it to be a spoiler. Obviously, I didn't read the book, although I love to read this whole franchise. I'm new to it through the eyes of cinema or through the movie lens. And to me, I feel it tells pretty accurately the story based on hearing it from you and for other people who have actually read the book.
So I want our cinema community to comment below. Did you read the book? How did you think it followed the text? I was so close to reading the book. I was in a bookstore a week before we were taping the show.
Oh, ouch.
And I was this close to grabbing a copy. I'm so glad I sat one of my friends down. I go, tell me what I need to know going into this movie. I was even scared to look at the Hot Topic collection that they had released.
Wow.
Because I was afraid I would deduce some spoilers.
Wow. That to me, that's dedication. And you didn't have to worry about me spoiling it because, well, I'm along for the ride. I'm good. The one thing that I absolutely loved, and I'm sure you can guess what it is.
The costuming.
No, that's kind of more you. But I did love the costuming. The set design, I loved. The cinematography, I loved. But the music.
Can't take my charm, can't take my humor. You can take my world, 'cause it's just a rumor.
James Newton Howard continues to surprise and delight. One of the things I was pleasantly surprised was there aren't that many mirroring compositions, at least to my ear, that were repeated throughout the franchise. This felt like brand new music, but I'd love to see our cinema community comment below. Did you like the music? And other than the one song that I'm sure everybody's going to remember, did you hear anything familiar from the first one?
That's interesting. The music stood out to me, and we were in Dolby, so obviously it was a little bit louder surrounding. But it was funny because I was listening to it. I'm like, I know this person. I know who this is. The credits were at the end, and I'm like, oh, it's. And James Newton Howard has done so many. He's done Batman. I think he started doing Pretty Woman back in the day. I mean, he's done so many. I think he did Zoolander. Yeah, well, no, he did the remake of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with Ben Stiller.
Yes.
And he's done Sixth Sense. I mean, a ton of movies. But what hit me was it felt like a hidden life.
Remember the day when we first met? I remember that motorcycle, my best dress. You looked at me, and I knew how simple life was then.
That's a really underrated gem that I wish more of our cinema
wonderful
community
movie.
would comment below on.
And the music, we have the music. We pipe that one in. But it just cracked me up because I'm enjoying, as you said, the costuming, the Lucy Gray singing, West Side Story. She's done some really fabulous work. But I just sat there and all of a sudden, the music. It was so incredible. The acting to me was very good as well.
I was really impressed with Tom Blythe's acting. It's not easy stepping into Donald Sutherland's shoes, but he took his character and he really gave it a distinct identity.
As a younger actor, I think he was very convincing when he was very earnest, and even as his character developed and changed. That part, I was amazed that over the course of the movie, how much he changed, but I was convinced. I know we've talked about other movies where the character changes quickly and it feels too fast, too quick. His character, you could just see gradually his ethics starting to slide, some of his choices affecting and impacting his whole life. It was a pretty powerful and dark story. And I understand this was the prequel to the other Hunger Games.
That's correct. You're seeing arguably the rise of the main villain in this film.
Wow. That was a hard watch.
I also like some of the supporting cast. Hunter Schafer did a really good job in her small little part. She definitely added depth to the characters that existed, but she also was able to create a space that was her own.
Do we have any questions from the box?
If you've watched the movies, you know the evil guy Snow. So you know the young Snow is going to go evil at some point. Would you agree they did a good job of giving him situations and you still couldn't tell whether he was going to go evil or not? And do you think they did a good job of setting that up?
I definitely agree. There's a few moments where you're almost on the edge of your seat going, there's no way this happens. But then it goes completely another direction than you were expecting, which was very nice as somebody who spent extensive time in this universe.
I would agree with the box. I know on our way back to the studio, our car was having conversation about the tension. And truly, not knowing which way he would go, there were parts where you think, I might go this way, and still you're not sure. Yes, no, yes, no. And to me, that kept me engaged, even though the box says, ultimately, you know where Snow goes. But it wasn't very linear path in my mind. It was, you don't know. And it really was holding tension.
That's a hard thing, I think, for filmmakers to do, especially with prequels, with pre-established characters that we know. I think that to do that, you have to put some faith in the filmmakers, but it also relies on the performers to deliver that.
I would agree with that. I think it's interesting to do the prequel last, too, as you said, knowing what we know and how it unfolds in the end. Do we have any other questions from the box?
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. People love the Hunger Games. Those people, are they going to be satisfied? Are they going to love this movie? Or are they going to be disappointed?
I think if you're an invested fan of this franchise, you're going to love this movie. Not only does it take characters that you know and give them depth, it also creates an atmosphere where you can understand the world just a bit more. And I think that's something a lot of prequels fail to do, but this one succeeds at.
I would agree with that. And not knowing how I understand how it's going to go. I don't know how it's going to start. I was invested, and it is a relatively long movie, about 2.5 hours. And I would say I was engaged for most of the movie. Or Rebecca, it is that time of the show where I have 5 Hunger Game moths looking at you and wondering where did they land this week.
Well, don't murder me, but it's going to be a 3 and a wing.
Number 1 reason for a 3 and a wing.
This movie went dark. I love that this movie wasn't afraid to embrace the conflicts that plague this fictional universe and elevate them into something that the audience could understand and was ready for.
And who do you think the audience would be? We talked about it's pretty saturated with the violence and pretty graphic at that.
I think besides the fans, I think this is a good lens into almost how people see the world. It's almost a psychological study in some ways.
All right, 5 flying moths came back to see me now. I would say, and I think I'm going to surprise you, I would give it a 4 moth rating.
You did surprise me.
I
thought this was going to be a 3 moth rating for me.
It's funny. I thought about that, but honestly, Viola Davis, evil Viola Davis with all of her snakes, was very convincing. But even though I'm not overly invested in the franchise, and obviously, and I mean overly meaning read the books, couldn't wait, really excited, I still think it was a very quality movie. It was well acted. It communicated a lot. Honestly, I did feel it was too graphically violent. I honestly felt it could have been 2 movies. And I think it would have been, in my mind, I think it would have been a stronger movie as a result of that. However, even though it's not my favorite franchise, it's one that I enjoy. I was looking forward to going to see it. But that doesn't take away from it was a good movie. Even if it's not the top of the, even if it's not Barbie, it's definitely worth a watch to me. However, the caveat goes back to really young children or young teens. I think it's a skip. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Watch the notifications for a review of the new movie Napoleon. Then come back to the channel this weekend for our weekly show, Movies and More, where we will have more movie reviews, the latest Hollywood news, and commentary snark meant to amuse.
Please remember to like and subscribe and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this movie review, you might click the link to check out our review of Trolls Band Together, or click the other link to watch last week's show where we reviewed The Holdovers.
Remember, cinema community movies are better together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.